Right, I hope you enjoyed the first part of the evening. Our next guest, my goodness, what a playing career, what a managerial career, what an incredible 4.5 years he had here at Ewood Park, the promotion, the Worthington Cup, the trips into Europe as well. It was an incredible time in the history of this football club. We are delighted to have him here at Ewood Park tonight. Please give a huge welcome to Mr. Graeme Souness. Graeme, how are we?
Is this working? No?
Should be.
Is it? Yeah. Thank you for the welcome. I'm good.
How is it being back here at Ewood Park?
I look back on my time here as one of the most enjoyable periods of my managerial career. You know, it's like everything in life. You know, when you don't have it all of a sudden, you sort of, you don't really realise at the time how good it was, and that was the situation I had here. I had several jobs in management, and you don't get a job in management because it's going well. And fortunately for me, when I got this job, I had the young players. You had two on it, not so young now, Jonty and Dunny, but people at Kells who, you know, when I bought Brad Friedel, it was a difficult conversation because we had two goalkeepers here already at the time, but he supported me in my time here, and it must have been difficult for him to support me the way he did, you know, having sort of accepted I brought someone in to replace him. So I was very lucky in having good pros. He alluded to it earlier. I don't believe you can be successful at any football club unless you've got good senior pros. And when I came here, I had a good group of, you know, Matt Jansen, Donny, Jonty, Duffer, good young players, and a great mix of older players. And I was very lucky in that respect, very lucky. And this was one of the happiest times of my managerial career. But anyway, when I was here, I was working for people that were here for the right reasons. Jack was still alive when I got the job. I didn't meet him. I met him, I think, briefly here. It must have been when I was a Liverpool manager when we came here. But as a Blackburn manager, I never got to meet him. But I was working for people who were here for the right reasons. They loved the club. They were local people, and it's how, you know, football should be. And it's so different today when you look at the makeup of the ownership of clubs in the Premier League and beyond. It's they're here for a quick turnaround, make a few quid and get out of town. So this was a really, really happy time for me.
Did you feel Jack's influence from day one arriving at the football club?
Well, I was saying, I had contact with John Williams every day, and I was saying, when am I going to meet him? Yeah, well, maybe next week, maybe the next game. And obviously, he was keeping how well he was as private as he possibly could. So, yeah, his name was mentioned all the time, every day of the working week, on match days. And then, obviously, sadly, he passed.
The start of that, sort of the first full season in charge then, and Jack did pass away. Sort of how big an impact did that have on, I guess, the squad of players, you as a manager, and the club as a whole?
Well, I mean, the club was his club, you know, and the success that had with Kenny winning the league, you know, it was his, you know, in black and white terms. He had the finances to go out and buy some of the best players around, and they got a good manager, and you won the league. And when you think of the size of Blackburn compared to the teams that they're up against, to win that league was one of the great stories of, I'm going to say the modern game, but the game of football here in England. It was quite a unique story. So when I came along, his presence was everywhere. You know, from as I said, I had daily contact with John Williams. He'd always throw, you know, he was pretty good at. He wasn't pretty good. He was fantastic at putting me under pressure every day of the week to, you know, drive us on. You know, Robert Course here tonight. He was always in the background, who had a big influence on us as well, because they were at all the away games, all the home games, occasionally at the training ground. I think I've never asked Robert, why were you not down at the training ground even more? Was that just a? Where are you, Robert? Where is he? Never fancied coming down to the training ground more? We could have got you a game when the players were kicking me. I could have got you involved in taking my place.
Get Darren Dunning back for that tackle.
Yeah. It was a great place to work. It was a lovely work environment. what can I say? You know, I worked at, as I said, the job I took after this, I went from exactly the polar opposite. I went from a really good group of people that were there for the right reasons. I knew after a month I'd made a major mistake. But, and then I'm like, when you work at a football club, you get sort of into the bones of it and you become heavily involved, and it's there for the rest of your life. Like every club I've worked for, you know, there's an element of how much you look back and thought that was a great time or indifferent time. But I look back on my time here, it was one of the special times for me.
That promotion in the first season, just how special a group did you have in terms of the players? You mentioned a few of the staff as well, and a few of them are here tonight as well. A real collective effort.
You know, Dave Fever's here, Phil Batty's here, and I was talking about it with Robert earlier when we were in the bar. You know, when you're a medic at a football club, it's not an easy job, because lots of doctors come into a football club and they're slightly intimidated by the players. They're all big-headed, they've all got an ego that would choke a horse. And sometimes, you know, the physio, Dave Fever, Phil Batty, when I was here, they wouldn't take any nonsense from them. They were the bosses, and I loved that. I made my job easy. I never had to confront that situation. They were perfect for that moment in time in football. We had a really strong group here, really did. But I come back to, you know, you don't get a job in management because it's going well. You walk in and you think, what do you want? You want to walk into, have good senior pros, and you want to have some good emerging talent. And I got lucky, I had both of those.
When you saw that squad for the first time, you saw them play a little bit. Did you know straight away that you were onto something special?
Well, I got offered a job. I think it would have been about March time, and John was very keen. I met him on an M6 motorway.
Pulled out all the stops then?
Yeah, no, I was he had booked a hotel room in a motorway. It wasn't in a cafe in a motorway. That would have been too public. So I met him there. Anyway, I think that was around about March time I joined, and I wasn't keen to come in there. And he said, "No, I want you to come in." And so for the following season, this season's been and gone, but the following season, I want you to hit the ground running, and that's why he was keen for me to start early. And I can remember the last game we had here. It was a game Man City. We should have beaten them. They ended up winning that game, and they were the team that was going up. And I thought, we've got a real chance just with this group. You know, obviously as a manager, you want to bring your own people in. But that day against Man City, when the stadium was full and there were people on the hill and up poles watching the game, I thought, we've got a good group here. We'll do all right next year. That's how it turned out. From
day one, did you think that promotion was on the cards then, or was there a point during the season when it really kind of went, okay, it's...
No, because I think when you're in football, you'd never be surprised at the surprises, because you can be flying, and if for some reason you lose against a team, you could be sitting top of the league and you play the very bottom team and lose them. So there's always that in the back of your head. But I knew with a fair wind, avoid injuries to too many, we'll be fine, and that's how it turned out. And it was just like we gathered momentum, more and more belief, and then we did what we had to do.
You had a fabulous blend within that squad. You've mentioned them already, sort of the more senior guys, but then the younger crop that were coming through as well. How did you get the best out of them ultimately?
What happens with the young players, they forget that the manager was young ones, and everything they were doing, I'd done 20 odd years before, maybe 30 years before. So yeah, you accept it, and as long as they turn up for training, train properly, and on match day they're what they should be. You got to allow them a wee bit of leeway. No one's perfect, but when I talk about good professionals, you think if you've not got a midweek game, you give them a day off. So you got them for 4 days in a non-playing week, and you're in their company for 2 hours maximum every day, and there might be 25 of them. So how much individual time can you give to any single one in 8 hours a week of working with them? It's very difficult. So that's where the senior players kick in, whether they play golf together, whether they live in the same street, the kids go to the same school, the wives are friendly or girlfriends. They have a big part to play, and I was very lucky with the ones I had here. You know, I had Flitty, Craig Sharp, Kells.
Brought in Mark Hughes that season as well, yeah.
Flitty, but Mark was the quietest man on the planet. He never spoke when he was a player. And Kevin was talking about five-a-sides. Where are you, Kev? Yeah. Kenny was hopeless at five-a-sides. he must, when he came in, he must have turned a new leaf, because he was the worst player at Liverpool in five-a-sides. You know, if we're picking teams, he was always the last pick. That's another story. But with Mark Hughes, it's a warm-up. So they've warmed up, and then we'd have a little game, and it would be all in. So you take as many touches of the ball as you would want, and then I would take it down to 2 touch. So once they're warmed up and they're fully on it, the first person, every single time we did that, to take 3 touches was Mark Hughes. He was properly hopeless. And he used to say that, don't worry about me, boss. Once I smell the hamburgers, he was talking about match day, once I smell the hamburgers, I'll be fine. So he was quite a, we got him when he was at the end of his career. But what a warrior he was. I remember in the League Cup final, we played him in midfield, and he terrorised them. The Spurs players just didn't want to go near him. He played a big part for us.
Your kind of player, then? Did you line up?
Yeah, I played against him when he was just a young boy coming into it, and I remember we played at Derby one night, and was it, maybe the guys can tell me, was it Rigobert Song? Was he a centre back playing for Derby? And he'd been messing Matt Jansen around, or whoever it was, and I said to him, I'm going to put you on, start the second half, and mess him around, give him a bit. So he goes on and he runs on the pitch, and the first thing he does is he runs past him before the game's even started and elbowed him across the chops. So wherever Sparky went on the field that night, he was on the other side of the pitch. He never went near him after that. He was proper.
Did you enjoy people and players when you were managing them that had a little bit of something about them, those characters within the group?
No, I realise everyone can't be like. I just like good players, and I liked honest players and players that would turn up. You know, I've been a player when we had some great players who were between Monday and Friday were absolute superstars, but come Saturday, they didn't want the ball at every opportunity, and that's what sorts top players out from the bang average ones when it's not going well. You still have to get on the ball, and we had when you think of people like Tugay, I mean we never had a game where after the game I'd go into my room downstairs afterwards, or indeed when we went away and it was either the manager or a member of their staff would say, what about that Tugay? Because if you like football, he was there was nothing to dislike about him, and he was full of mischief as well. We would, he thought I didn't know. It's all the players, they think they don't manage an old boy. He doesn't understand. This is the modern way. So before every game, he would disappear, and he'd go into the toilet, and he'd be smoking away and sitting there, and it'd be 5 minutes smoking away, and puffs of smoke everywhere. And I would stand and wait for him to come out the cubicle, and they say, "What have you been doing?" "Nothing, boss, nothing." And the room is it's like a nightclub. They lose like a nightclub. "You've been smoking?" "No, not me. And he was such a unique character. I enjoyed working with him, but we had lots of really strong characters.
How good was he, Tugay?
I would say I would put him in. I would go. If you're talking, it doesn't mean you're the best player, but in terms of just sheer technique, I'd put him in. People say and this is how I'd answer it. If you said to me, who's the best player you ever worked with? And I would say, well, playing and coaching. I played with a guy called David Cooper at Glasgow Rangers, who was just, in terms of technique, could do it. Matt Letizia, Tugay and John Barnes. Now, I actually I'm tempted to go more, because he played further up the field, Letiz, but Tugay was up. He was in that league, just for raw talent to manipulate the ball and do cute things with it. He was up there.
Was it just what he had up there? Is that the kind of thing, as a coach, that can you teach things like that, or people just have that? No,
you've got that. I've never said this before. I said this to Kells earlier. Where are you? I said, I don't think, if I was to be a manager again, I'd be a very different manager. I think I managed in a way I had been. I'm sorry, I'm sort of turning my back to you for most of it. I think I sort of managed the way I'd been managed myself. At Liverpool, for argument's sake. Well, go back, Jack Charlton. He basically gave the impression there's only one way, it's my way. And if you don't like it, you soon be out of here. And he said, I can remember him saying to me, your boy's got a bit of talent, and you've got a chance. But football's been full of people like you who've had a chance, had a bit of ability, but taking the wrong route. And that was a penny that dropped with me. And then I went to Liverpool, and I never got it said to me, but I heard it said to other players. We've told you once. This is the second time. If the penny doesn't drop this time, it just means you're not a Liverpool player. You won't be here very long. And I was telling Kels a story that I never went on a coaching course, and until I was finished. I just went out of curiosity. I decided I was never going to be a manager again. And I went down to the Midlands it was a 3-day thing. All I did for 3 days was do Q&As with all these young guys that wanted to be football coaches. And I came away and I thought, what have I learned from that? And the only thing I learned from it was this. It was about revisit. Basically, you have to tell them more than once. And because my upbringing wasn't like that. I'd been, we've told you once, we've told you twice, you're not going to be here very long if you don't get it now. And I think I was too harsh on players. I think I was too hard on them. I didn't give them enough time. I wasn't generous enough with my time because of, I think, the way I'd been coached. And if I was starting again now, I'd be a very different one. I'm sure all the lads in here have been quite tough on them from time to time. But I suppose it's a bit late to apologise now, but that was the way I was brought up, in the football world.
Did that apply a little bit to Dunny as well? You're probably the one, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of when I'm talking like this. See,
I might as well just say it.
See, there's a case in point. Where is he? He's an absolute rascal in every sense. I tried to get him to be a player like I was. Someone who could sit there and get more touches than anyone else and just control the game and do cute and clever things. He wanted to be Paul Gascoigne. He wanted to be box to box, dribble, and be the star of the show. And he had the talent to it. He could dribble for fun. I remember one night here we played. It was early season. I remember a summer's evening under the lights. And I'm trying to think who we played, but I think we won 3-1 against someone, a London team. And he was just, I'm going, this boy's going to be something. But he stopped learning. He stopped wanting to listen to me. He was listening to the wrong people. And we've had this conversation before. It was that once you played for England, I don't want to upset your night, but you should have had... Seriously, and I mean this. This is not because I'm sitting in Blackburn and he's in the room. You should have played 50, 60 times for England. And, I was hot-headed. I found it hard to listen to people when I was young. And fortunately, I came under the right influences at the right time. And I firmly believe he's someone that, with what he possessed naturally, he could have 50, 60 times for England.
Did you see similarities in your characters when you were
you
quite chirpy and confident when you were?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, my story is I'm the youngest of 3 sons, and I've always been confident. A great mum and dad, great house, great mum and dad, and 2 great brothers that looked after me. But he had more raw ability than I did, but he didn't have the capacity to learn like I did. He had an ability that very few have. You dream about having his ability.
How important was Dunny and Duffer, the promotion seasons, some of those that you inherited at the football club, in terms of that ability to excite supporters? Well,
yeah, but it's not. It wasn't. They were going to the pitch with good senior pros who would look after them. Once they go out and cross the white line, there's nothing I can do for them. It's up to how they deal with whatever situation is thrown at them. But they had good senior pros behind them to back them up.
That
really
season,
good senior pros.
Yeah, that season, how important were the Burnley games?
I thought we properly bashed them up in the first game away from home.
They bashed Dunny up. Kevin Ball did.
No. Did we not win 4-1 there or something?
2-0.
Was it 2-0? I can remember we won well, and I was amazed at the rivalry, how nasty they were to each other.
You've experienced some derbies as well. So when you got, I think you had to do a joint press conference, didn't you, with Stan Turner?
Yeah, beforehand.
Yeah. Was that quite an experience in its own different kind of way? But were you surprised at how fierce that rivalry was?
This never came out. I only ever got sent off once playing in English football.
or twice FA Youth Cup final as a kid, and then once playing against Carlisle for Middlesbrough, and I'd tangled with Stanton and I'd thrown a punch at him, and I got sent off. So I think next time I saw him, we're pretending to be the best of buddies before this game.
Telling fans to behave at the game.
And no, but we had a good team. I was never in that season. I can never remember thinking this is going to be a tough one today, because I had confidence in what we had in our own dressing room. You know, and Kevin alluded to it when he talked about Kenny and his approach to the games. He got that from Liverpool, where, you know, and I'm the same. I don't think I spoke very much, because I had great belief in what we had in our own dressing room. And you know, when we played games, the manager said very little, the coaches said very little, and then they would only say something like, it'd be Ronnie Moran or Joe Fagan. This is at Liverpool. They would say it to themselves in the dressing room when we were all there, 15 minutes before the game. We could get beat by these three, Ronnie. Yeah, Joe, you're right. We're top of the league. The team we're playing second bottom of the league. And I said, yeah, I've seen these playing. They're decent, you know. Yeah, but Joe, if we're on it, if we match them for effort, we win, don't we? Ah, you're right. And then they start to give us a bit of toffee. It doesn't really matter who's in that other dressing room, really, if we're on it, does it? And it made you feel so good. And all we had to do, it was like the team I had here, certainly in that championship year when we got promoted. All we had to do was match the opposition for effort, and then we're going to win the vast majority of games because we were better players.
Occasions like that, derbies, how much have you enjoyed them throughout your career? And you think of what you've achieved as player and a coach. Are those the sort of the occasions, the matches that really got you going?
Yeah, as a player, the bigger the game, the more I got excited. And I like to think, you know, the better I was. And certainly as a manager, I loved going into hostile atmospheres.
The return game here was a tubbing. It was on the back of a trip away. Was that your idea? Which one? Dubai, was it? Is that the one?
Oh yeah, that definitely been my idea. Yeah, a bit of winter sunshine, and then all you do is you turn up and you say to them, look, I'm obligated to say this. You got to behave yourselves. Do not involve outsiders when you're having a few drinks, and don't get arrested. And I've covered myself with the chairman and John and everybody else.
That trip away, how much did it sort of galvanise the players for the remaining few weeks of the season? Was it all about just squad bonding, basically, getting the players?
I think that had well and truly taken place before us going to Dubai. You know, I'm sure they were going out when they shouldn't have been going out and enjoying themselves, but that's a football player. That's a footballer's life. And maybe it's, excuse me, I think it'll still happen now. Maybe just not as much. But they were bonded already. You know, when you win together, you know, it's great. And as long as you like that when you lose, you know, you hear people talk about we're a strong dressing room and, you know, we're all in it together. It's very easy to say that when you're winning every week. It's when you lose a couple of games, maybe back-to-back games, then you truly find out what you've got in the dressing room. You know, for a manager with that kind of dressing room I had then, I really didn't have a lot to do. You know, I don't have to go into the dressing room and tell people they're not at it. I mean, I'd do it to make myself feel better, but I know that the senior pros had done that before I got into the dressing room, and it had been taken care of. I'd have a shout and a moan up. It was more for my benefit than theirs.
What was the feeling like at the final whistle at Preston?
Obviously, delight. I mean, I been very lucky. I've won, you know, quite a bit, and there's no feeling like it. There's no feeling, you know, promotion, winning a cup. It's just unique, and it's actually, it gets better when you've done it a few times because it just doesn't go in a flash. And that was a special night. That was a special night, and I can remember afterwards. I was doing an interview for the BBC, and I said something like, maybe Robert can help me, but I said something, oh, Jack will be toasting us with a glass of, I think I said something like a nice Italian red or something. And I think he drank, was it white Burgundy he drank? Montrachet, so white Burgundy. But I learned that too late. But I did see that on the telly.
Promotion or Worthington Cup then?
It has to be, I come back to my days at Liverpool. We won the league. We won the league a lot, and they always felt the league was far more than winning a cup. It said more about you as an individual, collectively, how you've dealt with the difficult moments in your league season. A cup you can get lucky and win a cup, but we weren't lucky that year. I think did we beat Arsenal? Mm-hmm. Tottenham in the final. Arsenal. I think we beat someone else who were a really good team.
Chef Wednesday were the semis.
Semis, but we beat someone else, I think. Big team.
Middlesbrough.
No, but I think we deserved it. Arsenal were obviously a top outfit then. But I'd have to be it's a pro in me. It's a pro in me saying the promotion, because I knew what that meant to the club. It meant we could go and invest and get better players and more players. So I think the league was getting out of the Championship into the Premier League was the bigger thing.
When we went to Cardiff, we were underdogs for the game against Tottenham. What did you say to the players beforehand? You said before you didn't make sort of big team talks, was it? Was it any different on that day? No, I don't.
I don't think I was ever big on team talks. I think I would sort of talk for my benefit more than theirs. Have a bit of a rant, and I'll give you. And this is a bell's rang in my head. I'll take it back to where my education was from, Liverpool. My last game for Liverpool, European Cup final, 1984 in Rome against Rome. We'd gone on holiday for a week, came back for 3 days, then went to Israel for a week. Had a really good time there, and came back for 3 days, went out to Rome. We've not mentioned opposition. We go to train on a pitch. We train on a Tuesday night before the game. On the Wednesday, we go to a training ground that's been organised for us. We get there after an hour's drive in the traffic. Couldn't train on it. The pitch was so rough. So then we come back to the hotel, shower, go for lunch. We never had team meetings. I remember European Cup final in a few hours' time, no team meeting, nothing mentioned. And Joe Fagan was the manager, and he stood up and he spoon and tapped a glass. He said, "Excuse me, boys, can you leave the room?" to the waiters. And we were nudging each other. What's he going to say? Because we didn't have team meetings. And he stood up, and it was a little raised area like this, and it was obvious after about 10 seconds he was talking to himself. He said, "Big game tonight." Yeah, just a European Cup final. They must be a good team because they won the league last year, and they got a couple of World Cup winners, got a couple of Brazilians. And it can be as good as us. Don't worry about them. Now the bus leaves at 5:30. Make sure you're not late. That was the team talk for a European Cup final. Now, I'm looking for help here from the players. I never went that mad, did I? You're not sounding very convincing, so you can tell me. But that's why I think Kevin talked about Kenny and short team talks, and I think that's where I learned. I think the work's done in the build-up to the game, during the week.
You had your work cut out for that one as well. No Tugay.
Yeah.
No Flitty.
Flitty didn't play.
Short, suspended as well. How did you sort of come up with
didn't we?
Yeah. How did you come up with that?
Well, I can remember we had Mark Hughes in midfield, and he did a number on them. Did Tiny play in that game?
Play right back, I think.
See, he was a bit of a mystery because he was a boy had absolutely everything, but he didn't have that fire to be. Imagine being that size and not being angry and aggressive.
Hence the haircut you gave him.
Yeah, that was his fault. His idea. I can't tell that story. Whose idea was it? Yours. Was it? Well, and I had this idea that if I give him the most ridiculous haircut, I'll make him look aggressive, and then he may start to act aggressive. So we got a pair of shears, and we just sheared him, and he had a skinhead, and thought he looks really aggressive now. But unfortunately, it didn't change his character. But what a player he could have been. Got arrested for that today.
Mm-hmm. Your man of the match in that final, Brad Friedel. In terms of the signings that you've made, you touched on Tugay before. How do you sort of pick between?
Well, one of the guys just pointed out to me.
One of those two, or someone else.
When during the break came over and said, "Who do you think was your best
your best ever signing? And I was sort of going, Tugay? And he said, no, Brad Friedel. Because I think we only had to look after him. I think we got him on a free because his work permit, or something to do with his work permit, if I remember correctly. And what a servant he turned out to be. Top goalkeeper and a top guy. Just another one.
I think you'd worked with him before as well, hadn't you? So did
I'd
you
had
know
him at-
what
I'd had-
you
yeah,
were
of
getting?
course,
Did
yeah.
you know how good he could be and what he was going to be?
Well, I'd had him at Galatasaray, and I was sort of pushing for. He got his move to Liverpool, and I can remember the game at Liverpool, where his career finished at Liverpool, where it was done after that. I was at Old Trafford, ball came into the near post, it went up in the air at the opposite end to the Stretford end, came to punch it, missed it, landed at someone's feet and tapped it, and I'd only give a recover from that. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, I had to go back to the States because I think the permit was running out or something. Liverpool had parked him up. But he was a really good goalkeeper.
How important was he for you, not just sort of those first couple of seasons, but throughout, and what he went on to achieve at this football club as well?
Yeah, well, he had a fabulous career, didn't he, after here as well? I mean, goalkeepers are underrated. You talk about a goalkeeper when he makes a mistake. If you're centre forward, you make a mistake, a fullback makes it's not highlighted in the same way. It's not directly attributed to you for being the reason you lost the game. So goalkeepers have to be a special, but that's where they're all mad. They've all got that sort of daft gene somewhere in them. Kells looks as if he's sensible, but he's got that gene as well. Who would dive at someone's feet when they're about to kick the ball? Not me.
You mentioned Galatasaray. How was that experience?
It was unique. Quite different. It excited me. It was something I fancied. I'd seen some sort of television program on Turkish football about a month before I'd been offered a job. I said, that looks an exciting place. Flares and enormous rivalry. So, yeah, that went quite well for me.
You just thought you'd stoke it up a little bit more by putting a flag in the middle of the pitch?
Yeah, not the smartest thing I've ever done. But there was a reason for it.
Yeah. All those experiences that you had, how much better a manager did they make you before you arrived at this football club?
Well, I had 8 jobs. This was my 7th job, and so I was reasonably experienced. I mean, I started management when I was 33, and as I said before, I was always confident. And when I look back now, the thought of being a manager of a big football club and still trying to play at 33 is just scary now. But at 33, I didn't think twice about it. And by the time I got here, I would be relatively experienced.
Do you miss it at all?
No. I think I don't have the correct. I'll tell you, I see it, and I was talking about this 20 odd years ago when I did pack it. And for me, the game has evolved like this, where you've got the tail wags the dog now. At Premier League teams, you've got assets, the players that are worth so much money that if I walk into the dressing room now and I fall out with one and dig him out in front of his teammates, there'll be 4 or 5 there that'll side with him. Collectively, they could be worth 200 million quid. So if they just pull back on effort 5% and you're not winning games, some agent puts out that he's lost the dressing room, chairman finds out, he hasn't got a decision to make, it's made. And I just think you become a modern coach today, unless you're at the very top and you've had success, like Jurgen Klopp had it, Pep's got it, Arteta's got that now, where you can actually, put your foot down and have a standoff with a couple of these players, as long as the board supports you. If you think of Arteta, he binned a couple of players, didn't he? And the board stood with him, and they're paying dividends now. I don't think I've got the personality for football, and I think I worked it out 20 years ago. I was too aggressive and too confrontational, and if I was to go back into it, not that I want to, but I'd be a very different manager now.
You took the club into Europe a couple of times. How enjoyable were those experiences, given sort of where the club had been when you arrived?
But we didn't really have a good go at that, and the reason we didn't, because you always got, the priority for us was staying in the Premier League. And whether that was a vibe I was giving off in European football. But I knew the priority wasn't European football. And yeah, you know, you want to do well in every single game you play in, but at the same time, the priority is for us to survive and flourish in the Premier League. For this club to keep going forward, we had to be in the Premier League, you know, because of the kind of money that the Premier League was generating, and it's still the case, isn't it? But Europe's nice, but we got beat by a Turkish team once. We never got beaten by them. Should never. I mean, we should have won about 7-0 out here. But that's, you know, what can happen in football.
When the time came and Newcastle approached, how difficult was it for you to make that decision, given the success that you'd had at this football club?
See, I'd spent 4 years in the North East when I was at Middlesbrough. I knew Newcastle was a very, very big football club. And I was tempted by it. I've maybe been guilty of taking jobs without doing any real due diligence, not, you know, asking questions, because I always had great belief in my own ability. And that was one you just didn't touch it. When you look at the kind of manager they had before, and not managed to bring them success, you know, and then Eddie Howe, I know has done it now, but I think the last time they won a trophy, I think it was 1968. That's a hell of a long time. And you know, Kevin spent a couple of years there, but I didn't enjoy that job at all. And it was partly because of the people I was working for. That's important. You've got to have a relationship with them, otherwise it doesn't work. I left the opposite of what I had here. What I had here was genuine, honest people who would look you in the eye and tell you, listen, you've got to be better than that. And John Williams was on me every single day. You know, he'd come down to the training ground and we'd fall out, and I'd get up and walk off, go to my office when we're having a bowl of soup. And then, you know, we're falling out, and at 3 o'clock he'd phone me when I was going down the M6, or I'd phone him, and we're mates again. You know, he just wanted the best for this football club, and he kept poking me, and I had a great relationship. So I left that, where I knew exactly where I stood, every minute of every day. I knew exactly where I stood at this football club.
If you hadn't left, would your career as a manager have gone on for longer, or was it that Newcastle that kind of...
Yeah, because Newcastle just finished. I just thought, I don't want to be answerable to those kind of people ever again. And, you know, Gordon Strachan tells a story that, you know, you get when you start off in your career, you're a football player, and if you get into the team when you're young, you know, you're full of fire. What he's basically saying, you only have so much fire to give. So if you sort of get in the first team 19, and then you have a career, and then you go straight into management. So basically for me, I played for 20 years at the highest level, then managed at 20 years at the highest level. So I think what I said, maybe at 40 years of that, my fire had diminished a bit. You know, because I was a younger man who liked confrontation. And that didn't always work out well for me. I'd get myself in trouble, like, too many to mention, really.
So post-football, it was a lot of media work. Did you enjoy that sort of...
Well, I wasn't, I'd been doing a bit of that, and it wasn't something I'd targeted, but my wife sort of encouraged me to do it. She just wanted me out of the house. So I have been so lucky. You know, I think I'm still making sense, you know, when I talk. But I've got ex-teammates of mine who are in desperate trouble with, you know, dementia. And so for me, I've been so lucky that, in that way more than anything. But, you know, I played for 20 years, managed for 20 years, and I was doing television for 20 years with crossovers. So I'm one of the lucky ones. You know, I'd never had any sort of, like a lot of the players I played with, where they were absolute superstars, and then within 2 years, you know, they couldn't walk down the street in Liverpool. Within 2 years of finishing playing, no one knows them anymore. So not that that's important, but I went from playing, didn't look for management, it found me, and then when management, I could have worked again, I'm sure. But I dropped into television, so I've been involved in football in one way or another for the best part of 60 years. So I've been very, very lucky.
I've seen him been part of the game changing a lot over that time. How does the current sort of game of football compare to? Is it better for all the things that have happened in?
I think we're
football?
coming out of a really dull period. I do. I think we're now going to be a bit more direct. There's more things happening in the opposition's box. It's less tippy-tappy. And I think we're just coming out of a period where, if you had the survey in here tonight and said, what is the number one thing that annoys you about the modern game? I think the vast majority of people here would say simulation. Well, if you look at simulation in a dictionary, does anyone know what it says in the dictionary about simulation? Yeah, well, it's a form of cheating. It's deceit. Deceit. It says deceit. And, we're British. That's not what we are. And yet our football is. People are going down holding their face when the ball's hit them on the shoulder. It's not us. So I'm hoping, and that can be improved if the referees get stronger and can see through it. But I doubt that because the referees are. And I'm a great advocate for introduce. The Premier League should put this referees organisation, PMG, whatever they call themselves.
PGMOL, yeah.
They should put them on notice. In 2 years' time, we won't need you because we're going to train up. There's lots of ex-players who didn't earn big money, but for whatever reason, they came out of it relatively young, but are still fit. So from 25 onwards, there'll be lots of young guys that could.
Would you have done that though?
No, but I'm not saying all of them could do it. But there are people who would do it, and they pay good money now. Instead of they know the first line of the rule book to the last line in that book, but they don't understand like a coming together. I can watch a coming together from here on the far side of this pitch, and I can tell you who's fouled who, where the intent was. They can't. You can tell, and what VAR's done to them, it's embarrassed them even more because they take that much time to make a decision. I can tell, like all these players, all these lads here, they can tell the first time they see it, a replay, they can tell who's fouled who. They take 3 minutes. It tells you everything you need to know.
Where do you stand on VAR? Are you fan of it being in the game, or?
I think they'll fine tweak it. It'll be more and more sort of generated by computers making the decisions, but they're still giving an element of the human input has to be better than it is at this moment in time.
It is the club's 150th anniversary this year. When you sort of reflect on that and see that you, your staff, your players, and what you achieved has got a little piece of that, and you think of that, this football club, how special is that? That it will always be there. It's in the history books now.
This is a very important and big part of my career as a manager. I had some very good jobs. I think I look back on this one in terms of it being the most enjoyable because the reaction of the people I had a day-to-day contact with. Football's not always like that, as I found out with different jobs. I work. What I should have factored in when I was offered a Newcastle job is, and I tried to say it earlier, but I don't think I got the message across. It's only when you've lost something do you realise how good it was. And I took for granted, like we all, take our wives for granted, or how lucky we've been in life. We all take that for granted. And I took it for granted, the day-to-day interactions I had with the board, with the players, with the medical staff. I took that all for granted. And that's a regret. But, who goes through life and doesn't have regrets?
Graeme, thank you so much for coming back to Ewood Park this evening. It has honestly been an absolute pleasure to hear tales from your time at this football club and some stories from your career as well, and what an amazing 4.5 years it was at this football club as well. I know everybody in the room will remember those times and be so grateful for what you and your staff and your players did. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's been so good to have Graeme back up here at Ewood Park. Don't leave it so long again next time. Graeme Souness, ladies and gentlemen.